If you're as excited about the tennis Wimbledon event happening here in the UK in the next week or so, then you'll want to get your hands on this template. This is a tennis themed template with an interactive menu that you can use to really engage your audience. You'll be able to make changes to all of the content, the titles, move things around however you want to in order to fit your content into this great looking template. So stay tuned. I'm going to show you how to make changes to this and how easy it is to edit and use in your next presentation. So let's get going. So the very first thing I want to mention is probably the main design element that you'll see on every single slide. And it's a really exciting thing to use in PowerPoint, but this is a 3D object, of course, of a tennis ball. And the way that this works is it's being brought in by a 3D library external to Microsoft's own library. And we've placed it on every single slide, but in a slightly different position. So when you move into the content areas, it gets a little bit bigger and moves down into the bottom right hand corner. And then when you move back to the navigation, it becomes a central design element and it becomes a little bit smaller. So it's there on every single slide. Now you can move this around wherever you want to on your slides. So for instance, if you are on slide 4 inside section 1 and you've added lots of content, but you want to move the ball so that it's more on the slide, maybe you want to make it a little bit smaller, you can then click on these arrows in the center and you can move it around into any position. Now you are not going to break the presentation by doing this. Every single slide is linked together using the morph transition. So when you move from one slide to another, and even when you jump from a slide like number 4 and you go all the way back to the navigation, which I'll explain how to do in a second, you will use the morph transition in between slide 4 and slide 2. So the ball will magically move into position for you and it will rotate around as well. The next thing I want to talk about is the main navigation. Now, the navigation for this template is always and only on slide 2. You won't find this on any other slides in the entire deck. And that's actually a good thing because it means if you want to change a title, you only have to do it in one place. Now, before I go into this, if you're wondering where these animated icons came from, they aren't part of PowerPoint, unfortunately. We actually went to a website called Lord Icon and we downloaded these as animated GIFs and dropped them in just using the insert pictures option. So if you do want animated icons, I highly recommend Lord Icon. Now, in order to change the titles here, you need to get rid of a hidden layer. So there's actually a hidden layer over the top of these icons and the titles. And the reason that layer is there is because it's basically the touch points. So we've used invisible zoom areas over the top of the titles, and that just tells PowerPoint that when you click over here on the left, it will zoom to section 1. When you click over here on the hands icon, it will zoom to section 2. So that's something you don't need to worry about. But if you want to change the titles, you do need to hide that layer first. So the way that you do that is by going to your selection pane, and in your selection pane you can see the navigation touch points is here at the top, and if you click on the eye icon you actually hide that navigation pane and you can then go into this menu and enter anything you want. So let's call this matches, maybe this is refreshments, and this might be players. If I could spell, it would be players. There we go. And this would be awards. Now, once you've done that and you've changed those titles, obviously go back to the main navigation and switch that navigation touch point on again. That just means that your navigation will now be working. If you leave it switched off, you'll find that when you go into present mode, it won't work at all. Now, one other thing that you can do as well, if you want to be a perfectionist, is switch that navigation off just so we can get to these menu items, and you can move these around. So there's obviously a big gap here between awards and players. So I'm just going to move these elements around a little bit just to get the spacing a little bit more consistent, like so. Then switch the navigation touch points back on from the selection pane and we are good to go. Now, the next really important area to talk about is, of course, the content slides. So we've put these together in a really simple way. There are actually instructions for you on the slides as well. But just to talk you through this really quickly, if you want to replace an image, just select the image, go to picture format at the top, and then over on the left hand side, you'll find a small drop down, which is the option to replace images. You can do that from various different sources, but I'm just going to swap this out with another tennis image like so. And you'll see that the shape of the image, the position, all of the shading and everything else remains intact. So do try and click on an image and find that replace image button, because it will mean that everything will stay nice and consistent and in the format that it's been designed to. However, having said that, if you do want to create brand new slides and just add any content from various different sources, go to the new slide option and you will find that there is a grass court slide template that you can use, and you can just drop your own content onto there. It might be charts, graphs, could be video content or other images. It really doesn't matter. And you'll see that that is just building up here now inside section 1. Now, you do not need to worry about how many slides you add into a section. As I mentioned earlier, when PowerPoint gets to the end of a section, as you're presenting this, it will then automatically, with the next click that you make as a presenter, it will automatically bring you back to slide 2 so that you are on the main navigation again. So long as you add your slides inside whichever section it is you need that content, you will be absolutely fine. Now, one other thing to mention as well, on the slides themselves, the content slides, there is a really small arrow at the bottom of the slide, and this is just been given an action to go to slide 2 whenever it's clicked. So the reason that's there is because if you do add lots of content and you want to very quickly travel back to the main navigation without finishing a section, if you're halfway through but you want to jump back to the main navigation, you can just click on that arrow, and you see as I hover over that there, it says slide 2, and that will just take you straight back to here. So it's a shortcut. It's a really nice quick way to jump back to the main navigation so that you can travel to a different part of the presentation. So I hope you find this a really fun template to use, and please let me know in the comments if you have any questions at all, if there's anything that doesn't quite make sense, or if you'd like to see some additional updates made to this. But again, just a quick reminder, you will find the link to download this template in the comments above or below this video. So stay tuned for the next one. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.